Commissioner Lack,
Here.
Commissioner Ambler, here. Commissioner Josviak,
Here.
Commissioner Monk,
Here.
Mayor Bonta, here. Commissioner Vasquez. Here.
Did everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes, and do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have the payment of claims. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at the claims, and are there any questions?
Just a couple questions on the Founders Square Improvement Project. I see there's 3 of them, well, 2 of them for lighting. Sandy, you want to come on up?
Sure. What questions do you have?
So was this approved, this expenditure?
Yes, it was a contract that was entered into between, that was Circle R and the Redevelopment Commission last year. So they've completed all of their work, and I think we're just catching up with invoicing.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the claims?
So moved.
Second.
We have I'm so glad everyone's enjoying the so moved thing. Yeah. We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we go on to old business consideration, working session, schedule meeting with stakeholders. Mr. Bowditch?
So at our last meeting in June, we did have a conversation about, in lieu of having study committees or subcommittees, putting together a schedule for possible topics that would be related to redevelopment commission planning or redevelopment commission projects. I did put together a schedule for work sessions that would be attended by the commission. No action would be taken, but we would have open opportunity for the public or to provide input and to provide presentations or information to the public about projects. And I didn't believe they need to be monthly. I considered it bi-monthly because there were 6 months left, and I figured at that point, plus we did talk about having one of the topics be the proposed Irving Street Trail project. And the assumption would be that starting in August, I picked the middle meeting 2 weeks before the middle week or in between the Redevelopment Commission meeting, so August 13th, if that's possible. We did also talk about having the meetings off-site at different locations. So I selected the Portage Library potentially, and because that project impacts the library and the city. The second would be Tuesday, October 15th. At the Portage High School, if possible. The sites aren't determined. I was just recommending this. And that would be an opportunity to present the educational and worker training grant program to the schools or any other educational institutions that may be interested. And then Tuesday, December 10th at Woodland Park, a potential planning work session to hear public input from the public about what they believe. I mean, we can ask questions of what they believe redevelopment projects should be, whether that is cameras or, having discussions about that, or acquiring property or looking at specific areas. So, and that would be a good opportunity in advance of developing the budget for your consideration in January and February. So I laid it out. The dates aren't specific, but at least I tried to put something out for your consideration. And if this was acceptable, I'll work with Sonia and staff and the city administration to put together something. And I tried to keep it just to an hour. I didn't want these to be too lengthy.
Yeah. Do we have any questions?
Will you please repeat the October date?
The October date was October 15th, Tuesday. So it was August 13th, October 15th, and December 10th. Now I'll have to check with.
I put it in my calendar already.
I think that just sounds like great, unless there's any particular objection to individual dates. I really think, and we can be kind of flexible there if need be, but I think it's a great way to be transparent, but also a great way to communicate with the community,
Right. And what I'll even offer is for the December 10th, I'll bring pizzas or something for the Christmas holiday. It's Christmas. You got to do something. You can't just show up.
Yeah.
Just bring candy canes.
I'm thinking themed cookies. I might try to like, yeah.
Well,
exactly,
you know,
yeah.
my wife does make a good cookie, so I may have to talk
Well, I
her
was thinking like, no,
into-
I'm talking like what I'm going to bring. I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah. That's-
Sonia, please put that in the record. Attorney Bartnicki will be
They'll
bringing
bring
sugar
cookies.
cookies.
The two Dans will sponsor.
yeah, we got this. We got this.
something.
Do you have a time for that?
Those were at 6 to 7 o'clock. Now, the times could be adjusted too. I just assume that 6 is a good opportunity to get people in after work and out pretty quickly. And we can always stay after if people have questions, but we didn't want to take more than an hour.
Awesome. And then we've got the next item would be the consideration of the educational grant.
So last month's meeting in June, we had a discussion on the educational and worker training grant program. I did make the necessary corrections and revisions that were discussed. I did have that resubmitted to you for your final review, as well as the resolution of the Redevelopment Commission that basically states you've created this program, you have the authority to create the program, and that now it is in your interest and desire as a commission to implement the Educational Worker Training Grant Program that is therefore attached to the resolution for entities, eligible entities to submit an application for those dollars. And then on Section 2, it talks about how the net available tax increment revenue, that 15%, would be calculated annually so that we can then accept applications. So it was a resolution that was before you. I don't believe there was a number associated with it at this time. We can have that number provided. It would be number 2. So it would be resolution number 2-2024, however they are numbered. But that would make the program official. And then at the October meeting, we can have a open public meeting and invite educational institutions or worker training people to come out.
If you could just go over a little bit about the actual, I mean, I think if I understand it right, you have to have the public, availability to be able to apply for these, but that's not the same as
You
receiving-
have
yeah.
to be an institution that is an educational institution or worker training program that provides students or worker trainees some type of product or some type of educational experience, so that, I want to make sure I get this correct, so that it improves their ability to be successful in the global economic environment and industry. That's what the statute states, the global economy.
And
You define what that means to me, but in general, in the past, and working with other redevelopment commissions that provide these grants, it is providing educational opportunities. Some of the examples I can use is in Michigan City, the Redevelopment Commission provided over, I don't want to say $2.3 to $2.5 million. Now, that was a lot. They have a gaming facility to replace all their in-class technology. Now, the Maryville Community School Corporation used it for not only technology, but they also developed a program where juniors and seniors who were going to a local university for pre-university or pre-college credit classes, they were reimbursed for that. Another program was they were taking students to universities as seniors or juniors to visit the campus and get more involved, so they would make a decision on, so they were decisions on that. Now, it doesn't mean that the school couldn't put in for the program and then subsidize, for example, the 360 program that the Portage EDC sponsors and facilitates
So I
in
think
getting workers out there.
I think what I was wondering is, when it comes to actually selecting, who it is that, wins or who receives, the funding.
Oh, I'm
is-
sorry.
Oh, no, no problem. I was just opening with, I understand that we have to have it public for everyone who meets
Yes.
the criteria.
Yes.
Is the selection done by us as board members just through a normal procedural vote? So like,
Yes.
hypothetically, like the public would watch, like, let's say that there were 2 proposals, and I'm just making up an example. Let's say the 3 of us, liked it, three of them, like they would watch us like debate that in real time? Or is that just part of having it that way that it's got to be done in a public democratic way?
So the way I've gone through this application process in the past is typically it's the school corporation, whether it's the Maryville School Corporation or the Hobart School Corporation or the Michigan City area schools. They would communicate with the Redevelopment Commission and identify that there's a grant potential, and then the school corporation would submit programs, and then they would fill out the application, knowing that this is going to has support of the Redevelopment Commission.
Gotcha. So
But anybody can fill it out.
anyone can fill it out, but that doesn't mean we have to take action,
You don't have-
positive or
no,
negative
you don't
either
have to take
way.
action. There's nothing that requires, it's up to you.
But we can take those applications and pick up one that seems good and say, let's consider this one.
Right.
I think
Exactly.
that, on that note, what I wonder is, let's use Portage Township Schools as the example, because, that's the one I believe is going
Right.
to be very successful. I'm just taking a guess, but,
And typically, it's the school corporations.
Right.
I mean, you might get an Ivy Tech that develops a program and it's specific to students in the city, I want to say this correctly. It's specific to students and worker training for residents in the Portage Redevelopment District. So it's the dollars that are collected for the redevelopment district, which is coterminous with the city. But so if it goes to the Portage School Corporation, how much of that, they have to cost allocate that to how many students it impacts for the city of Portage. We're not liable to pay for those outside.
right. Not like, I don't mean to say not technically, but from a standpoint of like the school system might create a program that's going to have Ogden Dunes and Portage and
Right.
South Haven students, but if they're estimating how much money they're asking us for, they have to estimate it based on the number of Portage students.
That would be my first question. How did you cost allocate all your students? What portion of your students come from Ogden Dunes, which come from Portage Township, unincorporated? I need to know that, and then it's based upon that.
But it could still be worthwhile, because if it's a program they're already interested in doing, then this is a way to essentially discount the cost. It's kind of like when you know that you've got a 80-20, program, and you know that by the time you're done, it's probably more of a 50-50, but if you're already doing it, it's a way to save some money, get the cost, down.
Yes.
In your experience, so let's use like, just the local school system, would it be normal for them to maybe make a couple of different applications so that we might consider? Or do you find that in communication, it's more like they know what would be the best? Or, do you usually see them submitting just one idea? Or is it more of they might submit multiple?
No, the Maryville School Corporation submitted a whole list of programs and equipment that they wanted to purchase with the grant money. So they would make their total grant request. And in fact, they would call and usually ask, what is that net tax increment revenue that's available? And then they would ask for the full amount. And then in some instances, the Redevelopment Commission would say, we will fund this technology, we'll fund this program, we're not going to fund it all. And there's a resolution that they would pass that says, we've approved your application, and these are the programs that we will fund.
I appreciate that, and in case there's any, school superintendents with a hobby of watching these meetings, and I know there is one, that I just think that was great information that you gave. Thank you.
I mean, if I was the school, I would ask, and I knew what the total tax increment revenue was, net tax increment revenue available, I would ask for it all and find out how we can use that to improve the student's experience or worker training.
Are there any other questions? I'm sorry if I hogged the microphone during that time.
I have a question. So can it be a program that's already in its existence?
Yes.
And it's just a continuation?
Yes.
And then my next question is, will you have a rubric that the schools could, as they're applying for it, have a list of things that it has to include?
We can put together a rubric.
Okay.
That is very much an educational term that is used. For my master's degree students, I'm required to have a rubric for their project, so I can put a rubric together, yes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So really, it's requesting consideration by the Redevelopment Commission to approve Resolution Number 2-2024.
Do we have a motion on that?
Motion.
Is there advice to legal on that?
Well, I just wanted to point out that Our director submitted, circulated this. I had a chance to look over everything. No legal objection. As part of this conversation, I want to point out Section 3, of the resolution, where the commission is not required to award any or all of the available grant program funds to fund an annual grant program year, and may only award a portion or part of the said calculated available grant program funds. So this is the part of the discussion. There's the flexibility of the commission. It's built into the resolution also. So just wanted to highlight what a great job, Dan has done on this, that it provides the flexibility in the resolution. So just wanted to throw that out there. No legal objection to the resolution.
Dan and Dan, great job, guys.
I'll reaffirm my motion to approve.
Good tag team.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go into new business, Mr. Bowditch, I realize I skipped over the staff report section. I believe that's because, only because because we had the executive. I think I wasn't thinking about it. Was there anything you wanted to say within
Well,
that?
I'll be quick. I will be brief, but I do have a number of items that I did want to report on. Over the past month, I have been working with the Northwest Indiana Forum, Mr. Summer there, as well as Andy Miletta at the Portage EDC with Project WOW with their site selectors, Cressa, on providing information for them. So we've been working, and that was submitted last Friday to them. I've also, and I mentioned it, we've already talked about it, the educational grant was finalized and submitted. Number 3, we did receive from SEH, Glenn Peterson, an update on the Burns Parkway extension. I believe we'll be scheduling a meeting with the city administration and with the Redevelopment Commission to attend that meeting to get a further update. But that email has been provided. If not, we'll make sure that you get the full email. Let's see here. I am working with the Portage Economic Development Corporation, Andy Miletta, on a prospect company that is looking at the city of Portage for a major development on US Route 20. In addition to that project, the nature of the company's business also has 2 to 3 supporting businesses that will be coming with them. So this could be a project that could entail in excess of 30 to 40 acres of land. So Andy Miletta and I have been working on that project also. We also, last week on July 18th, Mayor Bonta, Leanne Van Kuren, Tom Cherry, and myself did spend the afternoon at University of Notre Dame with Marianne Casado, who is the Director of Housing and Community Regeneration Initiative, to talk about planning efforts and discussing opportunities for the city of Portage, whether that be development and planning of the north side, development and planning of the downtown area, or annexation and growth issues and planning for that as we move forward, either southeast, or east. I don't want to say too far east because you can't go, but on the south and the east side. So we did have a great conversation with her and her staff, and I believe they're going to be putting something together for the city of Portage.
Actually got to talk to Marianne today. A situation came up, and all was good. It was kind of neat. We didn't expect to be on a phone call, but I will say I think this was our first real road trip together, and man, was that a fun car ride.
We had a great car ride. Yeah, we learned a lot about my work in Whiting. But it was good. It was a good opportunity for everybody to get out to Notre Dame and see the valuable resources they have and the expertise that they have with their students and their director. So that's all my report, unless Sandy has anything to report. Nope.
I was just curious, Dan, about if we had any report on the home TIF study.
Oh, that was last on my list. Next step, number 7. Prepare the home TIF documents as requested at the June meeting. I wanted to make sure that the educational grant was done first, so we'll get that all going for you next month. And there were 2 of them, I believe. Yes.
Perfectly, thank you.
Yep.
I need a pinch hit for Bill Rastrin real quick on staff reports. He's got 3 quick items.
Sure.
The transaction for the northwest parcel at Luton Airport was closed, and the property now belongs to the RDC. Bill and staff are working through the due diligence periods for the north side properties. Things are progressing well. And there's still due diligence issues with the buyers of the 6051, 6071 Central Avenue. We expect final determinations in early August, so Bill and staff are working through those different real estate matters. So that concludes the real estate report on behalf of Bill.
Thank you so much. So we can go to the new business, consideration, a memoranda of understanding between city departments.
Yeah, so this is, normally don't talk this much at these meetings, but here we go. So just a brief background, one of the issues that came up that was asked for just, like a legal review and things is that we actually had a resident come forward and say, hey, I know there's this vacant parcel right here. I'm having an open house. Can people park on that? And so that put me into motion to try to put together a hold harmless agreement to make sure that, the RDC wasn't going to be liable for flat tires and things like that. Well, that then led into a new conversation, which was, well, wait a minute, what about a license agreement for use of vacant parcels throughout the city? And Ed Graham and I collaborated, and Ed put together an actual license that different departments can use, which then led to another issue, which was, well, wait a minute, what about parcels where the RDC owns the parcel, owns the land, but a different city department is actually operating it? And as I circulated, the primary issue here is probably parkland, where the Parks Department is operating a park, but the RDC actually owns the parcel. So what I did was I pulled a common template that the state Board of Accounts, I think, or the state auditor uses. And so what I did was, instead of just creating like a template that just shows, well, fill in the blanks and all of this, that's actually just kind of a sample for what an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, would look like between the Park Department and the RDC for use on figuring out who's going to maintain, who's going to control, whose insurance policy, because this also led to a discussion with the insurance carrier on how all of this works. And what the suggestion was, make sure it's clear in any memoranda or any agreement between departments whose insurance policy is actually going to control. And so what we want to do is make sure we put that into our agreements. So you'll see that we have that in the draft that was circulated. What I'm suggesting here is that we put in place some sort of an agreement, like you see, with the different departments where they're operating on an RDC parcel, because we have to, one, control any litigation. So we're not really looking at hold harmless agreements between departments, because that's not what we're talking about. Whose insurance is going to control? What are the duties? Let's line that up ahead of time. Number two, we have to delineate which is the primary and secondary insurance carrier. Which policy is going to control. That's what we're going to seek to do, and also solidify general duties. All right, who's going to cut that grass? Who's going to maintain the property and all of that? So what I'm trying to do is show you a sample of what that would look like. So the next steps are for not only the city attorney, Ed, to review this, but also to bring it to the commission and ask, is this the type of form that has been considered as we're all having these conversations in between our public hearings? Because we're talking and thinking, and questions are coming up. Staff, we're all talking about these things. So I present to you this evening what an MOU would look like. And so with approval of the commission, I will take the work that's been done here and presented, follow up with staff, follow up with not only the city attorney, but other commission attorneys, and start to put together a final product. This is a work in progress. But as you can see here, in understanding where the goal is, which is to delineate responsibilities, duties, insurance policies, and liability, how does this look? Do I have your approval to continue to move forward and get more information and start presenting final drafts for you to sign, for me to present to these other departments? That's where we're at right now. So I hope that was an encapsulation of the past month of legal and staff work on all these different hold harmless and memoranda of understanding conversations.
Yes.
I will make a motion to approve the creation of an MOU for that.
Okay.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I just want to see, is there any discussion? Only because oh, no, you're fine. I just wanted to ask something.
Yeah.
And I just got to know,
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of a certain politician years ago who was asked how many houses he owned and he didn't know, and like, what have you. Don't worry, I'm not
Yeah.
putting myself in that situation. Sandy might know, or Tom might know, or maybe Mr. Bowditch does. Does the RTC own this building? Or is this city property?
City property.
Okay, so when the RDC paid for renovations, that was just paying for renovations on city property.
Correct, so technically the improvements belong to the RDC, but the property is held by the city of Portage.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure, because that would be kind of a weird situation
Yeah.
if that wasn't the case. So knowing that
And-
we're good there.
And that's actually a really good question, because as I've been talking with staff, I mean, we keep discovering, or they're telling me, like, hey, by the way, Dan, did you know that the RDC owns, and then fill in the blank? No, I did not know that. Okay, there's another MOU, you know, I mean,
So for example, like Founders Square, where that's pretty much done, constructed, at what point do we deed it over to the parks?
great question. That's
Sounds like
up to
that's what
us.
kind of comes into this whole, you know,
Yeah.
matter is there a point where we want to let go of something because it's a finished project, or do we
Yes.
hang on to something?
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
Or the library garden.
Yeah,
And that
because
has
the
to-
library garden is scheduled to be deeded over to the Porter County Public Library. I had to get my Ps in the right order. Porter County Public Library System. That's part of the original purchase and sale agreement and memorandum between RDC and the Porter County Library System, is that it will get deeded over. But what we've found is that there's not that arrangement for a lot of these other parcels. So at some point, yes, the RDC can transfer title. Great. But until then, my recommendation is let's put some memoranda of understanding in place.
Well, can it be part of this as you go through and you find these parcels? Do you, part of the discussion of, it would make sense at this point in time to deed those properties over?
We've got them identified, so if that's a decision you guys want to start moving towards,
and I think that,
we can work towards that.
Yes, we can.
I think the only other question I would have is that certainly there's properties the RDC purchases and maintains for, I hate to say RDC purposes, but, you know, it is to say, like, you know, we might buy, you know, land because maybe we're buying an old building and tearing it down so that it can be, you know, then sold to somebody, what have you. That doesn't need an MOU. That's just, you know, property that we own that, you know, we're doing a pretty, I don't want to say normal thing, I just don't know what the right word is. This is for when we're talking about ongoing properties that have, I think from the public's perception, an additional city use to them. We want
Yeah.
to make sure that that's defined.
Right. So there's a general insurance policy in place on what, you know, what might be described as RDC vacant land. There is some general liability and blanket coverage I discovered, so, you know, we are covered for that type of stuff, but, yeah, eventually we want to use it for something else. But yeah, there's no MOU in place because a different department's not operating a function, so it's just us. We just have it.
I'm aware of, I don't think we're ever going to do this in Portage. I'm aware of at least one city in Indiana where their RDC actually owns a hotel. And I know that because I've been invited to come and stay
Yeah.
at it. And I was said, you know, it actually belongs to the RDC. And I'm like, yikes. But all said and done.
Yeah.
I think we're just figured out the best way for Portage. And I apologize. If there's any other discussion, I'm happy. But otherwise, we do have a motion and a second on the floor if we're ready. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. So next up, we have consideration landscape maintenance contracts. Allens.
So I think this is more of a heads up for the commission. The department and the mayor's office, along with a commissioner from the Redevelopment Commission, have all been working to alleviate some issues that the city of Portage is having with landscape maintenance this year. And the Redevelopment Commission has stepped in the past and this year to fund the maintenance of certain sites. And I believe Sonia included in your packet a list of sites with the costs of projects that we've recently entered into an agreement with for Allens to maintain. So these contracts have already been signed. The contractor has already started and in some cases has already completed the work. And if you guys had any questions, I'm here for any questions.
I guess what I can start to say is that sometimes you'll hear Tom and I think that Greg has used this expression before too. When a department needs something or work needs to be done, it's sometimes said we call Uncle RDC. And we're trying to get away from that as we streamline and make things more efficient in the city. A good example might be land that's either parkland or that, as we just talked about in the last item, people consider parkland and maybe should be parkland, but between the park department, field forces, the street department, and then contractors provided by the RDC, we have a mix, and Portage has had for some years, a mix of different entities responsible for different aspects of maintenance and landscaping in the city. With the hiring of a new park director, Kelly Smith, we're beginning the process of, I guess essentially, hopefully over the next 3 years, getting the RDC out of these things, possibly reorganizing things with the street department and its relationship with the park department. We appreciate everything they're doing, but this is kind of an uncommon situation Portage has gotten into with different areas of the city being covered by all these different entities and departments. So that said, this might look like the opposite of getting out. You know, we're taking over quite a bit. It's to be able to make sure things are getting done in time and in such a way that we have time to create the new setup within the parks and within the streets. And then, as Greg mentioned, even getting potentially land currently belonging to the RDC actually to the parks. And I say this because I think that this is a great step forward for us as a city to be able to essentially kind of apply some common sense over which department is doing what in the future.
Mayor,
I
one
have
thing
a-
to
sorry.
mention. I apologize, Commissioner, you have the precedent.
So I just have a quick question. Who is Grimmer? Grimmer's responsibility, it says on our, where it says Founders Square.
The irrigation issues, Grimmer Construction just constructed the beer garden and some sidewalks throughout Founders Square, and their construction did some damages to the irrigation system, and so it's still, we're still working out responsibilities with Grimmer. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow with our consultant and our contractor and our landscape consultant, and hopefully we'll hash it all out by tomorrow,
Thank you.
of course.
One thing I want to note, Mayor, is Sandy brought up the subject that the projects are maintenance projects to existing improvements of the Redevelopment Commission. Just to be clear that the work that's being done is being paid from the general fund, Fund 255, and not from the allocation fund, which is not eligible for maintenance of improvements.
Thank you. I think, unless there's any other questions or anything like that, it is just to say that I think it's important to keep people informed on this. I'm really excited about where this is going. I am actually really excited with what's happening in the parks. To quote Jimmy Buffett come Monday, I think a lot's going to change. I'm so glad somebody knows that song. All right, well, thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
We have consideration proposal for Americo 6051 through 6071 Central Avenue.
So this is a continuation to the contamination issue we have across the street. Both Dans were involved in our last phone call with our potential buyer, Americo, on this item situation. So it was kind of decided by all parties involved that we'd go through voluntary remediation, the VRP program with IDEM, which actually releases the city of all liability once this is closed. So it's kind of our best option. There's a little more money involved, but this is going to take care of Coors issues, Starbucks issues, our issues. And this will be remediated, closed, and no liability in the future. So that's what this is for. I believe you've got the copy of the proposal? Okay. So this should be the last step, according to Marico and Core and us.
Right.
So I recommend approval for this so that we can get this closure done.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Aye.
Tom. We have a consideration for Founders Square masonry maintenance.
So Sandy started noticing some issues with our limestone over Founders Square. Our monument limestone bases were starting to shift. So that brought forth a visit. So I contacted 3 masons, one called me back. He's actually somebody who's done business with the fire department and has done business with the city. So we did a walkthrough through all of Founders Square, and there's a lot of deterioration going on. So there's a lot of maintenance that we haven't done in, how many years, Sandy, 20 or so? Since it was constructed. Right, so there's going to be some grinding out, caulking instead of mortar as far as waterproofing. There's just a lot of maintenance that needed to be done.
Tom,
Here-
does this have anything to do with the power washing that was just done?
No. Power wash, that was not, and there was some loose mortar that may have gotten kicked out, but they're mortar issues, so. The other part of this is what you're looking at above you. Right above this wall here, or right above this beam is a brick wall, and we have the roof, and then a brick wall, and then another roof. This brick wall here is all, it's deteriorating, the mortar is chipping out, and I'm pretty sure that's where the water's coming from. So, we dried it out, patched it, this guy came and did a quote, he's gonna grind out all the mortar on this side, and through out the bricks and remortar, tuck point this whole wall, and hopefully stop this. So, that's what the 2 separate quotes are for this mason, and just basically wear and tear and maintenance on our buildings, so.
The maintenance up here directly above us, how recent is the issue there?
According to Terry, there's been some issues slowly within the past year or 2, I want to say, but it's gotten worse.
I guess what I'm
So-
wondering is, because this was only put together a couple years ago, do we have any sort of warranty on the work that was done when
They
this got
didn't
put
do any
together?
tuck pointing up there. Yeah, there was no tuck pointing as part of the rehab of this building, there was no tuck pointing done, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I did look at the flashing up there, and the flashing looks good on because there's a rubber roof up there, and there's a way you need to flash it. That looks good. I think it's the brick, so.
Tom, will there be a warranty on the work that will be done?
That is a great question. I can check into that. Yeah, well, let's see.
And while he's looking, is there a way that we could do some sort of approval with a contingency that we'd like to have a warranty? So in the event that that's for some reason not possible, it comes back to us for further review, but I guess I'm wondering, could we give the go-ahead if that's something that can be negotiated?
Yeah, that can absolutely be, verbally stated in the motion, like somebody could say, entering into the proposal is approved on the condition that there is some sort of warranty provided by the provider. And then if there's not, then it can come back to the commission for additional work. I mean, that could be a motion given, but go ahead, Tom, if you had something else you wanted.
Well, my only concern is if he comes back and says, yeah, it's a 30-day warranty on, I don't know. But if it's a unacceptable warranty, I don't want that to be
Yeah.
correct. Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be, and it's going to be for workmanship. It's not going to be for anything, natural.
What would you
Right.
think is appropriate, Tom? Just going on, because
Yeah.
it means a lot that we've got you and your background when it comes to some of this. The fact that you could even check this yourself is pretty cool.
Well,
But-
for workmanship, usually It's anywhere from a year to 3 years typically on workmanship. You know, and then wear and tear is the only, you know, wear and tear or nature or Mother Nature, you know. But workmanship is anywhere from a year to 3 years typically. So I'd want to see at least a year on workmanship. So, because part of this is reliant on how well he preps that up there. So part of the prep and part of, that mortar staying in there long-term is dependent on how well he prepped it. So I would say I'd want to see at least a year, so.
But the RDC doesn't own this building, right?
I was thinking about that as I was talking about this, because I assumed,
That's
just
the
like
Uncle
a lot of other
RDC.
times-
Do you see it? Do you feel it?
that's a good point. I mean, you guys did these renovations and missed, you know, Tuck Point. No, I'm just kidding. You didn't miss it.
You always have a good one for a meeting, I'll say
I
that.
do, yeah. Whatever you guys want to do. I
But
mean,
for
we could,
tuck pointing, he's just gonna warranty that the tuck pointing stays in place. He's not gonna warranty that there's no water or
no,
damages.
no,
Right.
he'll
That won't matter.
warranty the workmanship of his tuck pointing. Yeah, he's not going to guarantee that this is what the issue is. There's not many issues it could be, because the flashing looks good. And with the tuck pointing, he's going to re-seal that flashing between the flashing and the brick. There's not a lot of other places it could be coming in, because the rubber roof looks good. So that was put in during the renovation, the rubber roof. So that looks good. So the problem with water damage is it's a process of elimination. You have to look at the most obvious potential reason and hope that's it. By all accounts, after being up there and looking at the brick, that's probably it.
So I think on the Founders Square side, I mean, that's RDC, you know, property, we're good to go. I think to Judy's point, that's the glimpse of the Uncle RDC. I will say that so long as we have our meetings here, if anything starts falling on us, I mean, that does impact us as an RDC, but you're getting it. You see the Uncle RDC issue we're trying to get away from at the same time. I think legally speaking, I'm sure we're fine, because this isn't, you know, it's just to say that it does seem a little worthwhile to me. But that said, certainly on the Founders Square side, I think that we can definitely see how, since the RDC got this set up, it might be good for us to make sure that it gets repaired and finished, but I'm definitely open to other feedback on that. You know, I do think that with the warranty, part of me wants to say, like, you know, if we can give it for, like, Tom to negotiate a warranty, but I feel like if we set a minimum, he could watch this meeting and know what the minimum is, you know? Like, if we say, you know, it's got to be at least a year, he might
Yeah.
just, you know?
Maybe do a contingent upon acceptable warranty, you know, acceptable with staff, so. yeah.
Warranty upon staff approval or staff
There you go.
acceptance.
Yep,
Taking me back to, like, our plan commission days.
there you go.
Yeah.
Find a way to make it happen, right?
Do we have any other questions or a motion?
Excuse me.
Did you get a chance to read through the agreement? Okay.
Oh, yeah, no,
'cause I
there's no legal objection to
Okay.
what's here for the two projects, you know, but,
I got that one late to you. and I-
yeah, no, it's okay, I
Okay.
was, part of my prep work, I got through it, so no legal objection to the way it is, you know, written. Obviously, we're looking for, you know, a motion to approve with the understanding that staff will seek an appropriate warranty for the work.
So moved.
There you go.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. I know we've been here a while. Any other matters to bring before this board? And if not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we're closed.